Yes, people, welcome back to the Oniaya with the preview. Yes, this is the show where we preview the Manchester United game of the week. And on this week's show, we're talking about Manchester United versus Fulham. Yeah, Manchester United is on their way to Craven Cottage to take on Fulham, which is a team that hasn't beaten Manchester United at home in the last 8 league meetings. So over the last 8 years, they haven't been able to beat Manchester United at all at their home. There've been a lot of close games. I even remember a few seasons when Garnacho actually came on and caused a lot of problems for Fulham. He was actually that player every time he played against Fulham that season. I think it was 2 seasons ago. He was detrimental to what they were trying to do. But yes, people, we're breaking it all down today on the Oniaya. So, Manchester United is about to go on and take Fulham in their second game of the not pre-season, but the actual season. And we can see Rúben Amorim already. I feel like he's feeling the pressure from last season. I don't know if I'm the only one that sees it, but he just needs to let his team, they're playing well. You know, it's been one game, but they're playing well. I understand he's under pressure. He has the worst start of a Premier League manager ever, especially at Manchester United. He's actually on relegation type form in terms of how many games he's won, how many games he's lost. So I understand that he is actually feeling the pressure, and that's fine. You know, like, it will raise the level in which he performs. So he basically has now set certain standards for himself and for the club that I feel like it actually needed. You know, him setting down and sending players like Marcus Rashford on loan last season. You know, when he benched Garnacho, and even the way he spoke about the club, like, people should feel like it's actually an honor to play for Manchester United and not feel like they've been here for too long, or it's not an honor, or they get like, they don't show gratitude. And you know, from somebody like Amorin, who played for Benfica and then played against Manchester United, played in Portugal, managed to be in the World Cup, and also managed a team in Portugal, he realized what it's like to play for Manchester United. Now, when you think about it, he would have liked to or loved to play for Manchester United, because also remember, he was in the era of Cristiano Ronaldo, right? So Amorin really, you can see and feel the passion that he actually really thinks that this is a massive opportunity, not only for him, but for anybody that walks through the door of United. And I think setting that standard in training, like when he's like, oh, I'm going to videotape you guys if I don't see you doing better. Like, the training is being videotaped, so I can embarrass you in front of the players. I can speak to you in the back room. I can show you when you're being a fuck up. And I respect that. That is him setting very high standards at the club. You know, even with and you have to big up the owners as well, with them, you know, fixing Carrington and all these things. Like, I'm not saying we should be hyped about it, because at the end of the day, United should have the best training facility, should have the best stadium, should have the best of the best for the magnitude in which this club carries and the commercial magnitude in which it... Like, think about it. They haven't won a major trophy since Ferguson left. And they're still one of the biggest clubs in the world. Yes, they've won Europas, FA Cups, Carabaos, and these small cups, but they haven't won the major trophy in the Champions League or the Premier League. So for us to think that their standards were the same as it was 10, 15 years ago, it's a joke. And that's why I'm so happy Amorin came back in and implemented certain standards into the club that have forced the club to actually now believe in what he's doing. And since they believe so much in what he's doing, they actually believed to the point where they now are operating on a different level in the transfer window. Now, you see them bringing in players like Brian Mbeumo and Cunha. I can't say this as much. Watching those guys on the weekend it actually brought so much joy to me as a United fan. It actually makes me want to wake up to watch United play again. when I see Cunha spin on Saliba, run at like 4 or 5 players from 30 yards inside of his half, and ends up having a shot that is all created by him. He does the same thing with that flick on Saliba and runs past like Ben White, shields him off, shields off Zubimendi, runs through the gap and passes the ball to Mbeumo. And then now, and then Mbeumo misses. And to be fair, Mbeumo, he had a lot of chances in the game. A lot. There was one time when he thought there was a foul on Gabriel. He didn't keep playing when he could have just towed the ball around Gabriel and finished. He thought it was a foul. Should have kept playing. That moment when Cunha came around and played him in, Ahmad is the problem in that play though. Because if you really look at that play, Ahmad was not overlapping, but he on the lap and came inside of the space that Mbeumo wanted. So I understand that one. Then he had a weak right foot shot. So he had moments in the game where I feel like he has to do better, especially for United. He can't get away with them kind of things that you used to do at Brentford at United, bro. You do this in the next 2-3 games, they will see you as a flop. No matter how good you are, no matter how good you were in the league. Let's not forget Alexis Sanchez. Everything isn't promised. He was sick as fuck as Arsenal. Came back to United and did nothing. Nothing. He had moments. Injuries and moments. And let's not forget, United had players like Pogba with Sanchez, Mkhitaryan, so much quality. Remember Mkhitaryan switched, Sanchez came. Remember that? And it was one of the worst things United ever did. Now, talking about the transfer window, now you see United exiling a few of these players. You see they tell Garnacho, they're telling Anthony, so the bomb squad. They haven't been able to get rid of anyone in the bomb squad except Rashford. So technically Rashford is still just on loan, but Barcelona's paying all his wages and they have an obligation somewhat to buy him. I think there's an obligation to buy Rashford, and hence he went to Barcelona, and not them just saying, oh, we might buy you. I think to his agents, there's definitely an obligation. Maybe not to the public and the media, because they know how they would spin that whole story and run it, but they know for a fact that Rashford definitely, once he performs well, whether he performs well or not, there will be an obligation for Barcelona to buy Rashford for sure. Now we have Anthony and those others that are struggling to leave the club. I know Anthony and Garnacho really want to play football, so I know that's not really an issue. But the problem is that teams that want them understand United want to get rid of them, so they're playing that hardball and they're trying to make sure that they come after United at the end of the window. It's clear, like, you don't need a fucking magnifying glass to see that that's what they're doing at the moment. They're literally forcing United's hand to come and show them that, hey, we want your player. We know you want to get rid of this player. We know that this player isn't as important to you. So let's just I'm going to give you 20 million. Like what they said to Manchester United for Garnacho. Just testing the waters to see if they can actually drink a liter of water and take a piss. That's what they're literally doing. But United have to stand up strong. Even if they have to lose 5 million or 10 million this year in wages. Do it. Do it and send those players to the under 21s or whatever. Now, I personally wouldn't want them to do that to any player. Because if I was a player, I wouldn't want them to do that to me. Well, when I was a player, and if I was playing at that level, I'm still a player actually. I do a lot in football. Y'all would be surprised. And one day we will definitely break how much shit we do in football. But when it comes to a player, I don't want to be a player that's been exiled to play on the 21. Even if they're young enough to be playing at that level, on the 21s, on the 23s. To be fair, like, Garnacho is still a kid. But he has so much experience, there's no way he would make himself play at that level. He would go crazy. I think that would actually be a wake-up call that he needs in his career and his brother to realize that this isn't no joke thing. Now, we don't want to talk too much more about the transfer window. So let's just talk about the opposition. Okay? So Fulham has been doing he has done well so far for the season. I mean, there's only been one game. They drew. I don't think they looked very good against Brighton. They actually got a late equalizer through this guy, Muniz, their striker, came on after Raul Jimenez started. Big up to Raul Jimenez. And he came on and changed the game, scored a late equalizer against Brighton. You saw other United targets like Baleba, who was doing their thing. So Sander Berge and Lukic for me are two really technical midfielders that people just look past because they're not the wholesale names. But I personally wanted United to go after Sander Berge, especially in that Ten Hag system. Just the fluidity and the way he looks playing football, personally to me, just makes me enjoy watching him play. So I just feel like he's a tall Luka Modric in the fluidity of his play. I'm not saying quality. Please, nobody stand here and say I said that Sander Berge is Luka Modric. I said the fluidity in which they play, just how they move on the ball. He's just a tall Luka Modric, and I enjoy watching a tall player, since I'm a tall person, play with such fluidity because you really see it. Hence, we see the Paul Pogbas of the world, players like that, who we look at and are like, wow, how are you so big yet so technical? And you get to enjoy seeing these players do these things. So yeah, I have a back four, which is usually the same because as we know, Fulham hasn't really had much to do in the transfer window. They've had a poor transfer window. Personally, I don't think this same team that they have now can allow them to do what they did last season. This team hit the highest they can hit last season in terms of quality. Their output was the best they could have done. They had certain spurts in the game where they were running it, they were controlling the play. So I understand the frustration by Marco Silva, and I understand the frustration by what he has to say. Now, before I show you the predicted lineups for United, okay, I also just want to talk about this one player here, Emil Smith-Rowe. Now, Emil Smith-Rowe was one of my favorite players, if not still one of my favorite players in the Premier League. I've been watching Emil Smith-Rowe since he's been in the Arsenal Academy. I'm a big fan of academy football. I'm a big fan of grassroots football. Hence is why I opened a sports agency. I very much love to see when young talent flourish, when you can grow them, mold them, help them to become great. So for me, watching Smith-Rowe, players like Smith-Rowe come through the academy, players like Kobe Mainus, the Garnachos, Rashfords, those stories for me, they are such like, they mean a lot, because I understand what it's like to try to create such an environment where you find a young player, you develop them, you invest in them to try to get the most out of that talent that you've seen. And for me, it's just a beautiful thing to see now that Smith-Rowe is in a team, that he is able to show what he can do. Now, I hope this season he can really stay fit and actually show the world what he can do going into a World Cup year. Because I do think he has a part still to play in England. He has a big future to play because he's a quality young player. I just think timing with him being at Arsenal, Odegaard coming in the same time, Arsenal being in a transition, him getting injuries, all this kind of worked against him. Now, before again we jump into before we go into the other lineups and talking about Manchester United, the predicted 11, and then the result, I just want to play you something Rúben Amorim had to say about what would happen to the players that stays at United if they didn't have a chance, yeah? So listen to this and let's tell me what you think about what he had to say when the reporter asked him this question.
Hi.
1 second.
Rúben. It's a few weeks now since you said the 5 players weren't going to go on the pre-season tour of the United States. Only Marcus has left. Is it frustrating that you still got the other 4? Is there anything that they could have done as players to help sort the situation out for them?
Oh, I think it's again. I know that is not a good thing to have players in this situation, but it's clearly that they want to play in the different club, and that is clear. So we try to arrange everything for both parts to be happy. So I have to try to imagine to have the training with the guys that I think are going to be the future, and then the other guys are training and preparing for the next chapter. When the window is closed, it is a different history. When the window is closed, we have to receive the players, and then new life, and anything can happen.
Now you hear how his tone change? You hear how his tone change? Before he was speaking, early up in the window, they were speaking, and he was like, yeah, these guys gotta go, basically. But he always said, though, I must say, he always said, if the players weren't able to get a chance to go to another club, they are Manchester United players, and I will have to find a way to reintegrate them into the squad. Now, I don't see them being reintegrated into such a beautiful squad in which United is trying to put together. I swear, a lot of people talk about this Onana, and, now you have people like Lammens being rumoured coming in the club. You have the Belabers being rumoured. You have the Stillers being rumoured. But I swear, all I would like Manchester United to get is Carlos Baleba. Please, United, go get me Carlos Baleba in this team right here. Get Casemiro out, put Bruno on the right side, get Baleba on the left, have that natural flow of things. And I promise you, United, I promise you right now, we might just need to chant 21 is coming. I'm telling you, hey, Baleba brings such another dynamic. Every time I see this lineup, I just see Baleba, I swear. Every time I just see Baleba. I'm a believer. Hey, listen to me, please, United. But yeah, this is the predicted lineup I have for the game against Fulham. I think he's gonna keep with the back 3, for sure. I think Ahmad comes in directly for Dalot. We can see that based on what he did against Arsenal, and also we know Fulham is not as attacking, so we're going to press them back. Casemiro and Bruno in the middle. A lot of people are talking about this midfield will struggle and if they have pace. But you can have a midfield of slow midfielders. Yes, not in a system playing one-on-one. That's diabolical. But you can have a system of players that are slow in your midfield. And just the way in which your team around them work, you need them to just be on the ball, slowing down the play and take care of the ball. Now, let's be honest. United had 60-something% possession in the game. Most of that possession was coming, one, from the back 3 and the defender. Obviously, Euro had, I think, some of the most progressions as a player on the pitch. And he's the right centre-back. So that makes you understand how United play and how they get out the back. But then, in terms of progressing the ball as midfielders, we don't really have that yet. United is calling out for a midfielder that progressively can drive the ball through the spaces. Then you'll see another dynamic of the team. Because people say, oh, Bruno Fernandes isn't disciplined. I just don't think in this system, Amorin really have Bruno Fernandes playing as much as he wants in the midfield. Amorin actually always says, I need Bruno closer to the goal. Yes, I need him on the ball, but I need him closer to the goal. I need him closer to the goal. He said that many, many, many times. So for me to think now people saying Bruno ill-disciplined because he's not staying in the middle of the pitch, I just don't think that's the way United want to play. I just don't think that's the way Bruno and Casemiro and Amorin wants Bruno to play. I actually think he wants Bruno to join the attack, fill that hole in behind the 10s, and now you have actually 5 players behind the striker while Casemiro hold. That's usually the kind of shape United pick up going forward. And that's why you have those late runs by Bruno. You want Bruno on the ball late. You want him being involved in the play. You want him linking up the play. You don't want him to be progressively coming to the game too late, because then it takes away from the dynamism of the team, and it also stops him from being that creative player that he is. At the end of the day, he creates the most chances in the Premier League over the last since he's come, and he's not going to stop. Even Kevin De Bruyne has to leave the league because Bruno came to take it over. You put Bruno Fernandes in a Liverpool or in a Man City, he plays for sure. You put him in those teams, he wins those trophies. Right now, we would be talking about this guy as the best midfielder in the world. It's because he in a team that come in 15, 20, third, fourth, eighth. You know, they're not really consistent, so there's no way they can consistently state to say, oh, he's the best player. They probably just say, oh, he's the best player in a shit team. You know, you can hit 30 goals a season, but if you're in a team that's not winning, everyone's just going to say, oh, you look good because you're in a shit team. Even if your numbers speak for it, even if your quality, the eye test says shit, he's sick, people will just use that against you. So then now, Dogo on the left side, of course, he's been playing well. This kid has developed over the last 6 months so fast. He and Euro, I don't know how these guys has developed so quick over 6 months. What they were when they first came, I mean, Euro got an injury, why I'm saying 6 months. But over the last 6 months, watching these guys' progression has been unbelievable, and I'm really enjoying it. And then you have a front three of Mbeumo, Cunha, and Seshko. Now, these guys must start. I don't know. And I kind of feel in a way also that Mount may start again, and he might go with the same front three just to get Seshko a bit more time to settle in and do his thing. But, bro, if you're spending 70 million on a number 9 and your excuse was for a couple games ago that the team didn't have a focal point, so now that's the reason why we didn't have certain fluidity, then please, Amorin, I'm begging you, I need you to go and start Seshko tomorrow. Just give him the 60 minutes he needs, the 70 minutes he needs. You know, give him some time for us to see what he's going to bring. Get him embedded into the team now. Because after the first 5 to 6 games, we need to make sure that after this first international break, we're on a run. We're going on a run, and a proper run if we want to actually challenge for the title. Because there's no way you can look at this team here, invest money in this team here, still bringing in players in this team, and telling me that it's not good enough for them to like compete. Okay? So what is the ending result? What do I think the result's going to be like? Well, I think United's going to win this game 2-0. I think Cunha and Mbeumo gets on the score sheet. Either or. I think either of them gets on the score sheet. I think Bruno Fernandes pulls up with a goal. Bruno Fernandes is just that guy, bro. And Bruno Fernandes is just that guy. And in as much as Cunha can dribble with the ball, as much as Mbeumo shoots all these goals, as much as we hyping up Seshko, at the end of the day, United turned down 100 million for Bruno Fernandes, because no matter what people say, without Bruno Fernandes, this club probably would have been relegated last season. Right now, we probably would have been playing in the fucking championship if Bruno Fernandes wasn't a part of United. So, instead of we try to run this guy at the club and talk all this smack and make him the one that we try to target, let us really respect the fact that Bruno Fernandes is the best player at the club, hands down. Okay? So my result is 2-0 for sure. I feel like United, just because Fulham has never beaten United, I think United is in good momentum. Fulham haven't renewed or even brought in any quality players into this squad. They literally have the same squad from last season. I just don't see them really doing United as much damage, especially watching the game versus Brighton, because a lot of people do these previews and I promise you, they don't watch the games. Let me tell you something. Every game playing the Premier League, I've watched. I can tell you how every goal from every team start and finish. There's no joke about that. So when I tell you that I saw the whole game with Brighton versus Fulham, I promise you, I'm telling you. So this is very, very much the eyes and the mind working together telling you that I just don't see it based on what I've seen from Fulham. They're not fit enough. They're going to have to run a lot more against United because United is all high intensity. They're not playing with that same level of unison that they had last season. The intensity from Fulham is poor, and you can tell that they're not playing at a high intensity when you know players like Andres Pereira and so didn't even start their first game. When he was the first name on the team sheet for seasons on the Marco Silva. He loved Andres Pereira, especially being Brazilian, having that Portuguese vibe about him. You know, he loves it. So he understands what it's like to play that player. And he really likes Andres Pereira. I've seen games Andres Pereira is so poor and Marco Silva will not drop him because he loves his intensity. So the mere fact he isn't on the pitch, for me, tells me a lot. Muniz not on the pitch, not starting, tells me a lot. Tells me that they're not fit enough, which means the team isn't playing as intense enough, which means those two players aren't as important to Marco Silva yet this season as they will be further down in the season. So yes, people, it's been your boy Yaya, always bringing you great content. Yes, don't forget, people, always remember to like, share, and subscribe to the page. Keep hitting the bell for notifications, my people. Keep hitting that bell, please. Because the more and more we subscribe and hit that bell and like, is the more and more the page grows and the community grows, and I can continue bringing you great content. Have a good time. Take care. Stay sexy. And ciao.